Hey everybody, welcome back to Esoteric Ramblings. I'm Jesse Arnold, and today I'm giving you my review / reaction to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 5. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Unfortunately, this video is probably not going to be as long as I want it to be because I am running late for work. So I'm just going to do a quick reaction and get it out there, and then maybe come back and do a longer thought on this episode, or maybe I'll just wait till next week and do just a longer one in general for the whole series. So that said, with no spoilers yet, this was a great episode. It picks up right where last week's episode left off, coming after John Walker's attack on the Flag Smasher in public, and dealing with the immediate aftermath of that, and then it kind of moves into things that you would expect to happen after that public execution. Another dynamic episode. I know a lot of people really love to hate Wyatt Russell. Because he's playing a character who, at the beginning, it wasn't Steve. But it was easy to, for me, it was easy to want to root for him because he seemed like he was a good guy, a good person, and but it quickly got to his head, and they took him down a darker path, which again, it's not surprising that they took him down that path. I mean, it makes sense. None of the choices seemed out of character. It just goes to show how quickly good people can turn or be confronted with situations and not handle them the way that you'd expect them to handle, or you might even expect yourself to handle it. So, another stellar episode all around. Great acting from the entire cast. There are a few surprises in this episode. I'm not going to spoil them here. I don't know what else to say without getting into the meat of the episode. So, I will say the episode is called Truth, and for anyone who has read some of the Marvel comics, and when I saw that, I was like, okay, I think I have an idea where at least some of this episode might go, and it did, and I really enjoyed that. So, that said, I'm going to jump to spoilers now. So from this point on, you have been warned. So the episode starts off with John Walker trying to justify his actions to himself as he goes back to his staging area or whatever in Latvia or wherever they were after they fought the Flag Smashers. And of course, if you saw the promo teaser, you see that Sam and Bucky are there to confront him, and he's like, "You don't want to do this," and Bucky's like, "Yeah, we do." So, it starts off with this fight between the three of them, and it's pretty intense. It was pretty great. It definitely had vibes of Civil War to me, except you had them teaming up against Cap instead of teaming up against Iron Man. It was pretty intense. It was pretty good. Really enjoyed that fight. And then as that ends, they get the shield away from John Walker, and it cuts to him being, how did they say it? Other than honorably discharged from the military. He's no longer Captain America in the government's eyes, and he stands his ground. He does defend himself to them even after they keep trying to silence him, which in a way I admire for the character, even though he's completely wrong in his motivations. I at least admire that he stood up for himself. He's just confused. He's trying to convince himself he did the right thing, even though he's been told he's wrong, that he's got the information wrong. So I don't know if that's just him justifying it to himself, or if it's a side effect of this version of the serum. And you've got Sam and Bucky doing their things. Sam goes home to help his sister, and there's a really great series of events with Sam visiting with his sister and making amends there, and some good family character development and bonding. I guess this video is going to be longer than I thought. So yeah, some really great moments with them, and it was so much better than just the cliche, like, well, you ran out on us, blah, blah, blah. Like, I like it. I guess I liked it because it was good. Like, it was a positive thing, but, like, I don't feel like they were pulling any punches. Like, they got to talk through some emotions and some feelings, and I appreciate that about this and WandaVision. They are really dealing with some interesting stuff, and it's not just punches and flying suits and things. A big thing, Sam loses his wings during the fight with Walker. John Walker rips the wings off the wingsuit, and Sam, when he takes the shield, he leaves him with Joaquin Torres, and he's just like, nah, keep him. He's like, I don't need him anymore, or something to that effect. He doesn't say it. He just says, keep him. So this is really good bonding thing, and there's a whole scene where he like calls out because you find out his parents had done, they mentioned this earlier, that his family did so much for people in the community, so he reached out and asked the neighborhood for help, and they all came together, and then you see Bucky come in and help, and they're trying to work on the boat and everything. It's some really great moments, and we get to a really powerful scene where he goes back to Baltimore. He goes back to see Isaiah Bradley, and again, I don't feel like they pulled any punches in this fight. This scene, fight. It was a conversation. It wasn't a fight, and it just, I think, really juxtaposed a man who was literally tortured in the name of his country when all he wanted to do was serve his country. And he didn't do anything wrong. He was given the serum, he became a super soldier, and he saw things done wrong. He tried to stand up for good, and he was imprisoned and tortured, and I don't begrudge him feeling bad and negative and angry and bitter against his country and the people at all. Like, they played it out in such a way that I'm like, that makes sense. Why would you have hope that things would get better? And he says no self-respecting black man would ever want to be Captain America, and you can see the hurt in Sam's eyes when he says that, because I think you realize now that Sam's trying to make that decision to become Captain America, because he knows what it meant to Steve, and he knows what Steve represented as Steve, not as Captain America. And he's seen that John Walker is not that same thing, and especially now that there's blood on the shield. And there was a moment when he got the shield back, and you just see him Sam's trying to rub the blood off that shield. That was just heartbreaking, to me anyway. And so just this scene with Sam and Isaiah is just really powerful. It's really potent, and it could have very easily been cheesy Disney fanfare when, whatever, to where he said, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stand up because I still have hope and all this. And then Isaiah would turn and say, it's like, well, if anyone can do it, you can, kiddo, or something like that. They didn't have that moment, which was great because, it ends with him telling Sam, no self-respecting black man would want to be Captain America. And I think that so Sam struggles, I think, for the rest of the episode. It's a very character developing episode. There's a little bit of action, but it's mostly about setting things up for the finale next week. We see Carly gets connected with Batroc via Sharon Carter, who reinforces my feelings that she is the power broker, or is at least in the services of the power broker. Or it's Sharon Carter. She might be up to some other triple, quadruple agent nonsense, pulling all sorts of stuff off, and she's working at some bigger thing with Nick Fury off the radar or something. But he's in space, so who knows what's going on there. But we get introduced to Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character out of the blue after John Walker has been other than honorably discharged, and she introduces herself as Countess Valentina blah 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 blah. I don't remember all the name. And she's got a little bit of a Tony Stark vibe. Like, she completely ignores Walker's wife. And just has kind of that, like, when he's talking to Peter in Civil War about, like, hey, maybe you're like, I'm going to sit there. It's just this kind of funny, like, I'm used to getting what I want with little explanation or justification as to why you would think that. And she says, you're very valuable to me and the people I work for, or something to that effect, and basically just says, like, and the smartest thing you're ever going to do is, besides take the serum, is, and marrying this firecracker next to me, is, the smartest thing you're ever going to do is answer my call when it comes, and I will call you. And she's like, don't worry about the shield. It's not the government's property anyway. It's kind of a gray area. So she feels like she's some sort of representative of the government, but I'm not really sure. So I had to look her up on Wikipedia, and I saw some aliases for her and affiliations. So she's been affiliated with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. She was known as a Madam Hydra at one point in the comics. So we will see where they go with her. Could she be the power broker? Absolutely. Or she could just be another player coming in on the scene. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then there's a whole lot of resolution or, conversation between Bucky and Sam about who they are to each other and what Steve meant to them. And I like that they're not painting Steve out to be just like this perfect guy and that he didn't do anything wrong, but just the way they talked about it, I really liked it. I really appreciated it. They saw him as just he was a man. He wasn't a god or this like infallible being, but I really liked the conversations they had about that and what it all meant and what the shield meant to each other. And Bucky says something to Sam. He's like, when Steve told me what he was going to do, I don't think either of us realized what it meant to be asking a black man to take that shield. Which I think was a good bit of conversation. And it was just a really great episode. I went from nearly crying a couple of times to laughing out loud at a lot of the scenes with Sam and Bucky fixing the boat and being around his sister and the kids and all of that. It was just a really good episode. Just kind of breathe through the moments. We get a resolution for Zemo. Bucky confronts Zemo at the Sokovia Memorial and hands him over to Io and the Dora Milaje to go back to Wakanda. And Bucky tells her, or she tells Bucky to she's like, maybe don't come back to Wakanda for a while. And he says, understood. And he's like, I got one more favor. And he shows up and he presents Sam with a case. Now I like that. I've had a feeling that they're going to not push Sam, but have him become Captain America at some point during this series. Whether it was temporary or he's going to be the new Captain America, I don't know. But I feel like they're pushing him to take on the mantle of Captain America like he did in the comics. But they're doing it in a much more making it his choice kind of a way. So he has this case mid-episode, and he doesn't open it until the final scene. And of course we don't get to see it. So it's him, you have this great training montage where he's practicing with the shield and he's exercising and doing his flips and all this stuff. And it feels like he's really working himself up, not to be worthy of the shield, but to be able to handle it and practice with it and earn it that way, not just because someone gave it to him, but that he's trained with it and responsible with it. I really like that. So it ends with him opening the case. And we don't see what's inside. I'm assuming it's a reworked version of the Falcon suit with the wings, but probably in more of a red, white, and blue color scheme. If it's anything like the comics, it'll be more white, which has been largely absent from the John Walker's Captain America costume. But it also sets up things with Carly and the Flag Smashers as they're moving to attack or protest a vote of the GRC, where they're going to move all the refugees back to their home countries. And it shows them invading the Senate, not the Senate floor, but whatever this organization, this council's voting floor, and they're either under alert and their security people are trying to get them to safety, or the Flag Smashers were there taking them hostage. I didn't quite understand what was happening, but something's about to go down. So I think the final episode is going to be a huge knockdown, drag out superhero battle, just like WandaVision was, but with all these characters. And there is a post-credit scene, which I will not spoil what that is, so you'll have to watch that on your own. So that's it. That's my longer than I expected review for Falcon and the Winter Soldier Episode 5, titled Truth. And we'll see you next week for the finale, and probably some other stuff in between. All right, thanks. Ramble on.